We want to be able to monitor them. How will we know that they're doing well? And you don't want to take their word for it. So you may run into your child that says, school, I'm doing great, but chemistry is extremely tough for me. But it's not just tough for me, it's tough for everybody, right? And I got a test, I don't think I did very well on it, and I'm really struggling in it, and I'm trying to get extra help, and you provide some suggestions, and it goes back and forth about how you're stuck on these really particular issues, and they go into quite a bit of detail on where they're struggling, and you feel like there's a connection. Okay, it's something, it's a problem we can work on. It turns out that they haven't been going to any of their classes at all. They've created this backstory, and you don't find out until you get this letter from the school that says they're on academic probation. Or they just say, hey, mom and dad, I've been kicked out. And the idea is that if we don't keep tabs, if we don't have a way of monitoring them, we cannot just take their word for it, because to be honest, sometimes their word isn't all that valuable to us, right? It just doesn't have any worth, because they're either trying to deceive us, or they feel so bad that they can't share the information, or they don't want you to be disappointed, or they just don't want to be kicked out of the school, that they dig their heads into the sand and they have to create some sort of backstory. Without regard to why they're telling an inaccurate or a mistruth, we've got to move past that. We have to go to the source. So I'm going to give you some ideas, some thoughts, understanding that this might not work for absolutely every child and it might not work for every setting, but these are the things that you're going to want to try to look into. Start contacting the departments right away. Get into the counseling department, talk to your RA, talk to the dean, talk to the people that are going to be working with them. Start building your relationships now with those people, right? Get them to understand that you have a child that struggles with anxiety, that struggles with these issues. They want to do well, but sometimes they start falling through the cracks. And if you can get that information to me, we can help together make this a successful experience for your child. They want to do well. They want to see your child do well. Even the other students want to see them succeed. But if they don't have anyone to talk to, if you have no relationship with them, then they're just going to shrug their shoulders and be like, well, that kid's not going to last very long. But you want them to be contacting you. Now, sometimes you're going to need to have a release of information. You're not going to just be able to, like school, go in and say, oh, I'd like to get the grades. You're going to have to be able to get to school to have a release of information that's signed by your child that says, yes, you can have access to these things, or yes, you can have access to these people. I would make this a requirement, depending on your child, of going to the school. If they really want to go to school, then it's a requirement that I have to have access to these things for your safety, to make sure that if you're falling down, I can be there, I can help. Now, it might not be enough. The RAs may still have their hands tied, they can't talk to you, but if you can pass them your phone number, make sure that they have an ability to text you, and to text them every so often, just to check in. Hey, I want to see how things are going. Even if the RA, which is the person that's the resident advisor, the person that oversees the dorms, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But even if that person can't share specific information, they may say, hey, you might want to just come by and visit. And that could be just enough of information to say, hey, look, something's going on. I need to start paying attention to this. You want to make sure people have access to you. This can also be in the form of sororities or fraternities, any friends that you bump into, any teachers. Some teachers are more hands-on than other teachers. Again, don't rely on the self-reporting. The other thing is you can watch for the cleanliness of the room. FaceTime with them while they're in their room and just kind of look at the background. If the room is really starting to take a turn, that could be them taking a turn. So you want to make sure that you're looking at all the clues, all the environmental factors that says this person needs help. Of course, if you can get their grades, attendance records, if there's a portal of any sort that the student has access to, see if you can get access to it. Those types of things can be extremely beneficial. We talked about the texting of the friends. Go on a visit. Go see them. A planned and unplanned visit. It won't matter, because if they're dissolving, if they're unraveling, then what's going to happen is even a planned visit, they're not going to be able to keep up the pretenses. But when you go there, talk to people. Just say, hey, how are things going? Hey, I really appreciate you hanging out. Just want to let you know if there's anything that you ever need to share with me, we're here for the same purpose, to make sure that they succeed. And there's a lot of kids out there that are going to say, hey, look, just so you know, I think they're struggling. And that can really be helpful, especially if it's coming down to substance, drinking, those types of issues. But it could just be that they're depressed, or they stay in the room all day. Whatever the reason is, you got to get that information to you in order to be able to do something. But they may not want that. So you do have some leverage. The purse strings. Watching the money that the child spends will give you not only insight into what's actually happening, but it gives you leverage in order to do something about it. So there are credit cards that have low limits. There are also guaranteed credit cards where you actually pay the money first. It's almost like a debit card. You pay it, it's a secured card where you pay $200 into the card, and they can use that credit up to $200, and then you have to kind of refill it. It's an entry level building credit for people that have horrible credit, or for people that are just starting out. There's also debit cards. All these different types of electronic transactions will give you a record of what's actually being spent. Are you seeing a lot of food being spent? Are there a lot of cash withdrawals, right? Because that cash could be for anything. Are they going to drinking establishments? Those types of things. You're going to want to have a record of what they're spending their money on. There is a card called Green Light. It's a Green Light credit card. It does allow you to have a lot more access. We use this for a lot of our families that have children that need credit cards at some level, but don't have the ability to maintain them in a way that's financially viable for the family. So it allows the child to make purchases, but they're restricted. So you can only make purchases regarding food or grocery stores or things like that. So those are some things that you want to look into. I'm not recommending pulling all the money back. What I am recommending is having access to the knowledge of what they're spending their money on. You can use food cards, right? Especially if they're at the university. They don't have to be going to Potbellies and to Panera and all that. You can use food cards and have that done where they have to eat at the dormitory. Now, keeping in mind that some kids will sell the money off their food cards and things like that, but you're making it more difficult for them. And that's really what this is about, is you're putting extra obstacles. And then anytime you see signs or symptoms that there's issues going on, like they burned through their entire food allotment within the first week that was designed to allow them for a month, then that tells you that either they got really hungry that week or they are passing their money along. If you're following the program, we have a do versus lose. The money can be the lose part, right? They have to make up. It's not about not having problems. It's not about not making mistakes. It's about the recovery, making sure you focus on the recovery. As long as they are trying to move forward on something, they're going to slip up, they recover, they move on. We'll talk a little bit more about that do versus lose at the end for those that are not part of the program, but those that are part of the program, certainly that is an avenue that you guys can work on. You can hold back that money until they show a way of making reparations.